Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game. It's from round 8 of the Gashimov Memorial. It's former World Chess Championship challenger Sergey Karjakin, Carlsen's old rival, and World Champion Magnus Carlsen brawling it out. It's again a very interesting game, and already two people in this tournament tried to use World Chess Championship preparation against Carlsen, repeating his games against Caruana, and it will be the same in this game. Karjakin also uses the World Chess Championship preparation that, a lot of you said in the comments, why are they doing this against Carlsen? It's obvious that Carlsen is more prepared in these lines, but two people failed. Let's see how Karjakin deals with it. And I'm sorry if you hear some thunder and rain. Unfortunately, I do not control the weather, so very little I can do about that. Without further ado, let's check out the game. Karjakin opens with e4, we have c5, the Sicilian defense, as we already mentioned. The game will be following the game Caruana versus Carlsen from their World Chess Championship match. C captures, knight to f6, and now knight to c3, and e5, the Pelikan Lasker variation. Knight d to b5, d6, and now knight to d5. Everything the same. I'm sure all of you already know this line by heart. E captures on d5, knight back to e7, and now c4. We have knight to g6 by Carlsen, and now queen to a4. And now we go into the back and forth bishop-queen maneuvering. We have bishop to d7, not allowing any nasty discoveries. Queen b4, and now bishop to f5. Karjakin repeats, queen to a4, bishop back to d7, queen to b4, and Carlsen also repeats, bishop back to f5. And here, Karjakin does not want to repeat. It would be a shame to waste the white pieces with another queen to a4 move. So here we have h4. Everything the same as in the game Caruana versus Carlsen. We have h5, and here in game 12 in their World Chess Championship match, Caruana played bishop to e3, and also Caruana tried bishop to e3 in game 2 of the rapid section of the World Chess Championship match, the one Carlsen won with the black pieces, and everyone was always wondering what would happen if bishop to g5 was played instead. Then we had to go into that supercomputer line that everyone was talking about. But here Karjakin plays bishop to g5, and we go into the queen b8 line, the one that everyone was discussing during the World Chess Championship match. And there even was a match between Stockfish and Houdini that continued the game from this position, bishop g5, queen b8. And here Karjakin started thinking, and he spent more than 10 minutes on his next move, and he played bishop to e2. So he continued in the same way Houdini continued this game against Stockfish. Obviously, he's very well prepared. Carlsen replies a6, we have knight back to c3, and now Carlsen finally can move the queen away from the last rank, allowing the rook to also be developed. Queen to c7, and now g3, taking away the f4 square from Carlsen's g6 knight. Bishop to e7 by Carlsen, and now not allowing the exchange, bishop back to e3, controlling the b6 square. We have e4 by Carlsen, a very nice move, releasing control of the d4 and f4 square, but now has control of d3 and f3. And now you have this e5 outpost for your knight, and the knight from e5 can come either to d3 or f3, depending on what white plays. It's just a lot of activity for black. Here we have castles by Karjakin, castles by Carlsen, and here you can see that the h5 pawn is free for grabs, and this is a very, very enjoyable moment. Here you might think, how to continue this game? Do you castle queenside? Do you castle kingside? What do you do with the h5 pawn? Carlsen just gives it up, and he actually starts a very nice attack with the time gain from the loss of this pawn. Karjakin grabs it, and here we have knight to e5, now controlling the d3 and f3 squares, and now comes bishop back to e2, controlling the d3 square, and queen to d7. We have queen to a4 now. This is by far the best idea. You're up a pawn, you want to get rid of the queens as soon as possible. You don't want to allow any trades of the light square bishop. Queen might come to h3, and already you will have a lot of problems. So queen to a4, and Carlsen declines the queen trade. Of course, he controls more space. He wants as many pieces on the board as possible. We have queen back to c8, and now comes c5. Your opponent is playing at the king side, you want to play on the queen side. But here's how Carlsen deals with it. We have d captures on c5. Now Karjakin wins the e4 pawn. We have knight captures on e4 and now c4. Removing the defense of the queen from the knight on e4. Now the threat, of course, is winning the knight. And also, the c4 pawn is a very nice pawn. You're preparing b5, which will cement that c4 pawn where it is. So knight goes back to c3. You can't allow black to capture the knight. And now comes b5, attacking the queen. Queen to d1. Having to go to the starting square, and now even b4. So Carlsen is playing on king side and queen side both. Knight to a4, not the greatest square for the knight, but you know, you don't want to put it back on the beginning square. Knight to b1, then you're not going to be able to bring the rook into the game, and well, at least now you're threatening something. Knight to b6 would be a nice idea. And here Carlsen plays bishop to e4, and it is from this moment that Carlsen puts on his Morphy head. There you have it, and I'm not joking. This is a very fierce attack. So already you can see that there are some dangers in the position. If you try something silly like knight b6, you want to win the exchange, or d6 doesn't really matter. Just queen to h3 and white is already lost. The threat is queen g2 checkmate, and you can't really defend from this. If you try something like f3, you lose the g3 pawn. King h1, now you get knight g4, the threat is queen to h2 checkmate. Once you defend, you get bishop captures here, just with further control of the h2 square, and whatever white plays here, you're just gonna play queen captures, king goes here, knight captures on e3, controlling f1, this is checkmate, but it's only one of the possible checkmates. All variations lead to checkmate if you allow queen to h3. So here, Karjakin finds a very nice defense. We have queen to d4, and now comes queen to f5, defending the bishop, and we have f4 here, forcing the knight to move. So how do you proceed here? It was at this moment where f4 was played that Sergey showed that black should be winning in this position, but you know, it's not an easy position to deal with. So feel free to pause this video and try to find the winning idea for black, as it is a winning idea. I'll give you a couple of seconds, you know, take even a minute, as you know, it's what Sergey recommends. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations. You have just played a move recommended by a supercomputer and also played by World Chess Champion. It is queen to g6. You don't care about what happens to the knight, because if the knight is captured, queen g3 is checkmate. The bishop is controlling all of these light squares along this diagonal, and the king has nowhere to go. So the knight will not be captured. Here Karjakin played bishop to f2, just controlling the g3 pawn, and now comes knight to d3. You want to go after the defender of the g3 pawn. h5 by Karjakin, pushing the queen back. We have queen back to f5, and now Karjakin tries bishop to g4. He wants to give up his own light square bishop for Carlsen's light square bishop. So Carlsen grabs it. We have queen captures on e4, and now comes bishop to d6. With the threat bishop captures here, as the g pawn is pinned, you will not be able to capture back. So Karjakin goes queen back to g2. You know, now if the pawn is captured, of course you will be able to capture back with the g-pawn, and we have rook 8 to e8. Now Carlsen brings the rook into the game. The rook is coming to e2, and there is very little you can do about this. Here bishop to d4 is played, and Carlsen now doesn't rush things, you know, as all things that are good, you know, they shouldn't be rushed. So first, just grabbing that nice pawn. We have queen captures on h5, and now queen to f3. Karjakin again offers a trade of queens, and Carlsen again goes just queen g6, again creating this threat of bishop captures on f4. So you have to either go back with the queen, or the move Karjakin played is king to h1, just you know, not allowing this pawn to stay pinned. And here Carlsen plays rook to e4, a very nice idea. The bishop on d4 is undefended, and also Carlsen uses this opportunity when the bishop is moved to double up rooks along the e file. We have bishop to f2. And in this position, Carlsen played rook f to e8, and believe it or not, it was in this position that Sergey Karjakin resigned the game. Why did he resign? Well, if you look at the position, white has no moves, really. Whatever white plays, black has a decisive attack. We're going to show one such line. You don't really have a good move with the knight. If you play your rook somewhere to d1, that rook really isn't doing anything. You can't really move your bishop. You have to keep an eye on the g3 pawn. The queen also, I mean, what are you going to do? You can play something like queen g2, then you get rook to e2. And now, again, whatever you play, you can't even bring a rook into the game. The knight controls that square. Let's say you play anything, then black just creates a decisive attack. Queen h5 check, we have king g1, knight captures on f2, grabbing the bishop, and after rook captures, you will just capture, and now you storm down with the rook, and whatever white does, you can either give up the queen or move the queen, and now it's queen h2 checkmate. So just a very, very impressive attack by Mr. Morphy Head Carlsen. He doesn't require the head anymore, so there we have it. I mean, look at this position. 40 moves against a player of Karjakin's caliber, the so-called Minister of Defense. It's just impressive. But there it is. The third game someone in this tournament attempted to play into Carlsen's World Chess Championship preparation, and Carlsen just, comes victorious. So really, I don't know. We'll see how Grenke Chess Classic starts very soon. So we'll see if they will be using the World Chess Championship preparation against Carlsen there. But it should be very interesting. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be showing at least one more game from round 8, so we're not going to be showing the standings, but spoiler alert, Carlsen, with one round to spare, is the winner of the Gashimov Memorial, as there's no chance for anyone else to catch up to him. There was a chance for Karjakin, but now with him losing the game, Carlsen can just lose the last round and he will still be first. This is the 4th edition of Shamkir Chess, and Carlsen has won all 4, so very, very impressive feat by the world champion. And also, I've heard news that there will be a very short tournament. Short, I mean short because only 3 players. Carlsen, Anand, and Dingliren. They will be playing in a whiskey distillery, and I will tell you more in the next video. But seems very interesting. You know, they should even include, like, maybe have a shot of whiskey after a couple of moves, and then, you know, see who is able to reach the end game. I don't know. Ding is able to hold any position, but I don't know if he could hold his liquor. You know, I mean. But yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Nuno Costa, Mark Kotsi, Hrag Kupushian, Dame Pletvarec, and Harshit Rai for contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, like I said, with perhaps another game from round 8 and continuing what we usually do. Thank you all. Have an excellent rest of your day, and I will see you soon.